What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. Please, all of you film enthusiasts, do not flame me for this, but I'm going to show you guys how I edit in Lightroom my favorite film stock, which is Portra 400. I make my digital photos look like they were shot on film. Let's jump on the box. I'll see you guys in there. Peace. So anyways, let's jump into some color correction. Let's make it look like a Portra 400. We'll jump into Photoshop at the very end for that final kiss. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my exposure. I'm going to drop the contrast, drop the highlights quite a bit. I'm going to lift my shadows. I'm going to lift the white tones a little bit. I think I'll also slide up my blacks just a little bit up here before I jump down to the curve editor. Curve editor is where I'm going to do a lot of my work. You'll notice in Portra 400 there's a lot of warm tones in the imagery and in the quality, so we're going to handle a lot of that in the curve editor before we head down the tree a little bit. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple anchor points in here. Pull the highlights down a little bit again. I'm going to kind of keep the contrast in here a little bit, but I'm going to bump my blacks, which you'll notice in here, all the black tones and the flowers and stuff start to lift a little bit. Pull this down a little bit as well. The next thing I want to do is start adding some warm tones into my photo. So I think I'll just pull this down somewhere there. I'm going to put an anchor point right there, pull it back up so it stays there, and then put a little bit of extra warmth into my shadows. Anything down here will be your shadows. Anything at the top here will be your highlights. I'm going to also go to the red channel a little bit. Let's see if we just pump a little bit of that in there. I think one thing I'm going to do is I think I just need a little bit more contrast and a little bit more. I think instead of exposure, let's hit our white tones a little bit. I kind of like when the Portra 400 has that little kick in the highlights, almost like a little bit of overexposure. I kind of like that look. So we're going to give that here as well. Then we're going to jump down into the temperature of the entire photo. Going to warm it up a little bit, and I'm actually going to also pull the saturation down a little bit. I think living somewhere in that tonality right there. So I'm going to go into my color mixer. I'm actually going to go into, first I'm going to start with the hues. I'm going to go into my yellow tones, yellow and greens. I'm going to pull that green more towards the warmth. I think I'll also put this a little bit closer to magenta. Same thing here. I'm going to pull away from those teals, the aquas. I'm going to leave everything else, I think, kind of the same. I'm going to go down into saturation, pull a little bit of green out of the photo. I'm going to pull, actually, you want to know what? I'm going to pump a little bit of extra blue in here. One thing about Portra 400, you'll see a lot of photos, a lot of blues will be taken out of there, especially like those deep magentas. This photo was shot without that really in there, so I'm actually going to push a little bit more in there. But you kind of want your sky and your blues to live kind of in this world. I think I'm going to go, last thing I'm going to do is luminance. I'm just going to make this a little bit more fun by just bumping up those yellows. And I think I'm going to pull, no, I'll leave my sky a little bit actually lifted. Last thing I'm going to do is go down into color grading. I'm going to go into the shadows. Once again, I'm just going to bump a little bit of extra color in there. I'm going to go to the highs. Same. I think I'm going to leave my midtones. Maybe I'll put a little bit of teal into my midtones. Maybe something like that. And let's look at what the before is and where the after is. And there you go. Let's see. Is there anything else we're going to do? So instead of adding grain here, I actually downloaded a pack that I will link in the description. I actually paid for this. It's not paid for. It's not a paid ad. He has pulled it out so that we can use it. So instead of using grain inside of Lightroom, if you do not have this and you do not have money for it, go ahead and pump some grain in there. Zoom in. Maybe not that heavy-handed. Maybe somewhere around 39. And I'm going to pull the vignette down just a little bit. I think something like that. I'm going to pull this off, but that is about what I would put on if I was using Lightroom grain. I'm going to go down to detail, sharpens off, which is amazing. I'm not going to remove any noise. Everything else is going to be pretty much perfect, and I'm going to call that an image. So let's just see how this transfers over to other photos. I'm going to Control C on that. Let's go over to another photo. Control V. Literally, it's like a one-stop shop. Let's try this one. Control V. I think this one went a little bit too much green, a little bit too much warm. So I think what I'll do is I'll come down here, pump a little bit of extra red into this. I'll cool that off just a little bit like that. I think that image would be done like that. Let's go over to this one, Control V. That looks freaking awesome. I think that works. This image is very similar to that first one, so let's see how it transfers over. Control V. I think this one also went a little bit too much warmth, too much green, so I'll just change those just slightly. And I think I'm going to expose up a little bit, drop the contrast, bump the shadows. I think something like that. Maybe add a little bit of an extra crop on this, give it a little bit more of a film look, like it was shot on film. Look at that beautiful smile. Boom. I think we'll call that a photo. And the last one here is this one. Let's dump it on there. I think that is freaking awesome. I think I might do the same thing. Is just pull a touch out of that like that. Call it an image. Anyways, let's jump into Photoshop. I'll show you guys how I will apply grain onto this for that final kiss, and we'll call that a preset. Anyway, see you guys over there. All right, we're in Photoshop. Let's put the final touches on this and add a little bit of grain. Let's jump into it. All right, open. These are my different film grains that I've picked up. I will have a link in the description below. I paid for all of these, so go get your hands on them. They're awesome. Open this up. Dump this over on the file. Press F. Zoom out a little bit. Put this exactly over the image. Go back here. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so the only thing you really need to do to this is take it from normal, and we want to put it on overlay. Where is our overlay? Boom, overlay. All right, for me, this is a little heavy-handed, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the opacity, going to mix it back to something around a 55. Maybe even something a little bit lighter. Gets a little heavy in the darks. Zoom out there. There's your Portra 400. Everything you need, all there. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something on this. If you like this, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you'd like to see next. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.